There are several different ways to install tile, but the best starts with Backerboard, a cement sheet that resembles drywall. Backerboard creates a solid base for tile, mimicking the thick layer of mortar that was used as a base for tile in the old days. In addition to providing a solid base, it provides the best service to accept mortar. The look and feel of Backerboard varies from brand to brand, but installation is basically the same. On walls, especially bathroom walls, code may require a vapor barrier between the Backerboard and the framing. Traditionally, this was a 15-pound roofing felt or 4mm plastic stapled to the wall, but there also are several more sophisticated barriers on the market. Check with your building department to see what's required locally. Backerboard installs much like drywall in that you screw it to the studs. However, the studs must be on a 16-inch centers, and you must screw the Backerboard directly to the studs. Any existing plaster or drywall will have to be removed. Work from the bottom up and keep the bottom of the sheet 1/4 inch off the floor, tub, or shower by placing it on a temporary spacer made of a 1/4 inch plywood. Screw the sheets to the studs, using the screws and spacing recommended by the manufacturer. Trim the edges of the sheet as needed so that they're supported by a stud. If you need to trim a sheet, score both sides with a utility knife or a carbide cutter made for the job. Pull up to break the piece in two along the line. If you need to make a cutout for a pipe or plumbing, score around the edges of the opening with a knife and hit the board with a hammer to create the opening. Though not all manufacturers call for it, the Tile Council of America calls for leaving 1/8 of an inch between sheets. Once all the boards are up, fill the gaps between the sheets with mortar, spreading a skim coat of mortar 1.5 inches either side of the seam in the process. Embed alkali-resistant fiberglass tape in the mortar and seat it with the trowel. Treat corners the same way. When the Backerboards are in place, remove the spacer at the bottom and caulk as directed by the Backerboard manufacturer. Installing Backerboard on the floor is much the same as installing it on the wall, except that you apply a layer of mortar to the floor before putting down the Backerboard. Snap a grid on the floor to lay out the position of the sheets before you start. Mark both the edges and ends of the sheets, positioning them so that joints in the Backerboard won't line up with joints in the subfloor. Stagger the joints by starting every other row with a partial sheet. Make sure that the corners of 4 sheets never meet. Mix up thin set mortar, following the manufacturer's directions. With the smooth side of a 1/4 inch notched trowel, spread mortar in one of the areas you've laid out for a sheet. Comb through it with the trowel to create a series of ridges. While the mortar is still wet, place a sheet of Backerboard over it. Leave a 1/4 inch gap between the Backerboard and the wall and an 1/8 inch gap between the Backerboard sheets. After you've positioned a sheet, drive Backerboard screws into it every 8 inches. Around the perimeter, position the screws at least a 1/2 inch, but no more than 2 inches from the edge. After you screw all the boards in place, fill the joints between them with mortar, smoothing it out about 1.5 inches on each side of the joint. Cover the joints with 2-inch alkali-resistant fiberglass tape, pushing it firmly into the mortar. You can cut the tape to length with the thin side of your trowel. When the tape is embedded, scrape off any excess mortar.